It is my honor to welcome to the dais Professor Major General Reserves Isaac Ben Israel, Yitzhak Ben Israel, founder and head of the Yuval Ne'eman Workshop for Science, Technology and Security at Tel Aviv University. Professor Major General Ben Israel served in the Israeli Air Force and was the head of the Military Research and Development for Israel's Ministry of Defense. If I could have your attention, please. The person I'm introducing here is a very, very serious per capita individual, so let's have your focused attention, please. It's not every day that we get to have him at the university. He was twice awarded the Israel Defense Award, which is a very serious award. He is a professor at Tel Aviv University. It's not his fault. Can't all be perfect. One of the founders of the Yuval Ne'eman Workshops for Science, Technology and Security, and leading the Blavatnik Interdisciplinary Cyber Studies Center. He was the head of the Program for Security Studies, Executive Director of Interdisciplinary Center for Technological Analysis and Forecasting at Tel Aviv University, Deputy Director of the Hartog School of Government and Policy in Tel Aviv University, and a member of the Jaffe Center for Strategic Studies. He served in the 17th Knesset, appointed to formulate Israel's national cyber policy, and has chaired multiple national councils, including the Israel Space Agency, the National Council for R&D, the board of the Israel Corporation, and the chairman of the Technion Entrepreneurial Incubator. This person is a general who's also a genius, so take out your pad and write down what he says, okay, because what he says is very serious. Thank you.
Good evening. After such an introduction, I would better go. And everything I can say will only... I was asked to speak about the technological aspect of Israeli defense generally, and especially with the context, in the context of counter-terrorism. So I will start with some obvious slogans that everyone knows. You know, Israel was born in a war, and it's not yet over, although at the beginning it was a very different type of war. It was a war between Israel and military regular armies invading our borders. This was the threat. And the numerical ratios are unbearable. I mean, if you take only the number of people in the Arab countries which has a joint border with us, you get a ratio of 1 to 20. If we take the whole Arab world, you get something like 1 to 60. If you add few Muslim countries which don't like us, like Iran today, etc., you get 1 to 200. The founding fathers of Israel understood from the beginning that we cannot win the numerical game. We cannot, as I'll quote Ben-Gurion, David Ben-Gurion, he said, we cannot overcome our enemies in quantities, therefore we should put our emphasis in qualities. What did he mean by quality? He mentions two things which are, if you think about it, the same. One is a human factor. We have a tradition of respecting learning, wisdom. We are good, I mean Jewish population generally, good in science, things like this. We should build our military force on this factor. Secondly, the second factor is science and technology. He mentions them as two factors because at the beginning, some 75 years ago, science and technology was not as developed in Israel as it is today. It's a result of this principle that we have today a different situation, I mean, different position in the world in science and technology. And this is how we started investing in human talent, especially in science and technology. And some of the things you see today, even if people don't understand it, have the roots in this principle of Israeli defense doctrine. I'll give you one example. If you take and ask yourself how many people are in working ages between 18 to 60 something that have university degrees in science and technology, I mean exact sciences and engineering. A normal developed country in the world has something like between 0.4 to 0.5% of its population. The leading one is Japan with 0.75. Israel has 1.5. How come we have 2 times more than Japan and 3 times more than the average of the developed world? The reason is so simple, people don't think about it. It's not because we like to study engineering and science at the university. It is because we have a compulsory service. In principle, every boy and girl as well, age 18, has to go to long military service, almost 3 years. And we take from every cohort 1%, postpone the service, and send them to study at the university first. Then they have to come back and serve the normal 3 years like everyone else. And we usually, at the beginning, at the first 30, 40 years since independence, we send them to study science and engineering. If you take 1% from every cohort for 75 years, at the end, you get at least 1% of the population with degrees in science and technology. It's so simple. The other half come from normal people, like in any other country. After military service, they would like to go to university and study, and that's how. And after 3 years, they all go back, because the state is so generous and postpone your service, they ask you, when you come back to serve the normal 3 years, to add another year or 2 years. At my time, it was 1 year. But after 4 years, most of these people are going back to normal life, which means university, industry, all the others, and then the whole society looks different. The whole economy looks different. Okay? It took some years to accumulate the necessary numbers, but I would say that since the mid-80s, that is 40 years ago, mid-80s, Israeli economy started to be based more or less on what we call high-tech. High-tech, it started from the military service, as I told you, but then it affected the whole society. I'll give you one example, a recent one, to demonstrate the point. 2010, I was called by the Prime Minister Netanyahu after someone attacked the Iranian centrifuges with cyber technology. And he showed me a letter I wrote when I was the head of the defense R&D for 99, saying that one day everyone will understand what we nowadays was 99, okay? Nowadays understand that you can use cyber technology not only for spying or in what we call in information space, you can use it also to cause physical damage. Because every important system eventually will be controlled by computers. In Israel, it was the case in 99 already. And if you hack into the computer, instead of doing something to the information, you can send an order to the system controlled by this computer to not to behave the right way. Okay? If it is a centrifuge, the centrifuge collapsed. Nothing happened to the information of the Iranians. It was a physical effort. One day everyone will understand it, and then in that day, we will find ourselves in much vulnerable, in a huge problem because we are very much vulnerable. Unlike our enemies in the Middle East, almost everything in Israel already in 99 was controlled by computers. Power production, transportation, healthcare systems, of course, communication systems, everything. In most of the countries around us in 99, it was still, all those systems were still controlled by human beings, manually. We have human beings as controllers also in our side, but they control the computers. They take care that the computers will not have some malfunction or something like this. But on the other side, it was really manual control. One day I said, the Prime Minister Netanyahu showed me this letter from 11 years before 2010, and said to me, you said one day, this is the day, because after the attack on the centrifuges, everyone started to talk cyber here in Israel, in the world. It's a good story. So the media jumped on it. And then I found myself leading a task force which submitted at the end of the day a plan to the government, a 5-year plan, how to make Israel one of the top 5 countries in the world in cybersecurity. Things like this happened in the past, not for me. I mean, for me, this was the first time, and in the past with other technologies. Then every time I said that the idea is to base our defense on science and technology, but what type of technology, what type of science, it is changing all the time. Now, the basic idea, by the way, until that time, cybersecurity, which was practiced by many countries, it's not only in Israel, by many countries, was done by intelligence services, and therefore was considered to be very sensitive, secret, don't talk about it. It's hard to believe, but you come from many countries, you can check in your own countries. 2011, when the government approved this plan, there was not even one university on the globe in which you could go and earn some degree or study cybersecurity. This was only 12 years ago. Sounds like Middle Ages. So the idea of our plan was to, in a way, to come out of the closet, to make it legitimate for every normal occupation in our civilian life. That is education, not only universities, by the way. We still have matriculation examination at the end of high school, given by the state to all the students. We added to the subjects of matriculation examination, we added cybersecurity. Later on, we started teaching cybersecurity in schools, not high schools, elementary schools. I have a grandson, 8 years old, 3rd grade. They started to talk about it. They don't teach him how to write codes. It's too early. They teach him how to behave in this world with, for example, Facebook, what you shouldn't post to Facebook. How do you behave in this world? Education, industry. We started with startups because at that time there was hardly big industry in cybersecurity all over the globe, not only in Israel. We started with startups, I don't know if you know, but in Israel, which is called Startup Nation, 4% of the startups succeed. 96% fail, which means that most of it fail, but the whole idea is based on a huge cycle of many startups born every year. And at the end, some of them become grown companies, some of them become even unicorns, what we call, with a worth of more than $1 billion. How many cyber startups are today on the globe? Around 500. Cyber unicorns. How many of them are Israeli companies? Something like 150. And being in Israel, you know that we are not 1/3 of humanity. Okay? And I can give you more numbers like this. And then it was very natural that 2018, I was called again because the plan succeeded and was told to repeat the exercise. But this time, how to put Israel as one of the top 5 countries in the world, not in cybersecurity, but in artificial intelligence. The 2 plans, cyber and AI, were not really based on defense goals. Defense is one of the goals that it started from defense issues, but economy was not less important, and as I said, education, etc. The AI program had a bad luck because we submitted it in June 19. This is 2 months after the government didn't succeed in the first round of elections. Since then, we had 5 rounds. And we have now a government. Now it's the first time in these 4 years that we have an approved budget. Until now, we didn't have a budget because of this political situation. AI is not in debate. I mean, it's not a political issue. But without budget, you can do nothing. And therefore, only parts of the AI plan were really launched. Only what parts? Those that are not dependent on approval of budget, new budget. One of them is defense. So if you ask me today, which is the sector who did almost everything we wrote down in this plan, promoting AI, is the defense sector. And this, I was asked to speak for 15 minutes. That is, I have only 2 minutes. And you excuse me for this. This affects counterterrorism as well. I mean, today, well, there are many types of terrorism. I don't have to tell you this. You're experts on this area. The one that is worrying us most of other types is rockets and sometimes, or in the future, maybe also some UAVs, unmanned air vehicles, flying objects coming from a long distance, carrying weapons, and we have every few months an event. We don't know even how to call it. It's not a war unless you call the whole last 10 years as a war. We have events like this. Last big event, we had some 6,000 rockets launched against our population, 6,000. And therefore, we do a lot of things. Some of them you heard about, like Iron Dome. I will not speak about it. Some of them are connected to these technologies of cyber and AI. For example, when an event like this starts, usually the rockets, there are hundreds of thousands of rockets around us. The rockets are hidden, so someone has to go to open the covers, to take out the covers, to launch the rockets. People approach the hidden places in order to operate it. You have a lot of information flowing into our intelligence centers, and you have to select the right, I mean, to fuse the right information from this source and that source, etc., very fast. If not, if it will take you more than a few minutes, then the targets will not be there anymore. We will not be able to bomb it. And therefore, the IDF formed what we call, in a poetic way, we call it data factories, or at the beginning it was intelligence factories, now it's fire factories. That is computers with AI algorithms that fuse all the data and recommend what should be targeted, what should be bombed. We have not yet reached the situation in which the AI is deciding by itself what to do, but we are very close to it. Thank you very much.